Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host. Now, I'm speaking at you on Tuesday, September 19th, so way earlier than I normally do. I normally do it over the weekend. It has been what I've been doing lately. But I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. I'm leaving on Thursday, day after tomorrow. So I am not going to be here in my studio and have my editing equipment. So I'm going to try and get this done before I leave town and bring the file with me so I can still release it kind of at our normal time. I thought I would just quickly do... Now, I'm not doing a deep historical dive like we usually like to do here on A Satellite View. I, last time, skipped so much of my notes because there were so many subjects that I thought were interesting. So I thought instead of doing our normal deep historical dive, I would just kind of go through these things that I think are very interesting still. Last time I mentioned, of course, that this whole Hunter Biden thing is stirring up the Kushner pot. I'm hoping that that keeps its momentum. We're talking about all these trials coming up. One of them that kind of gets skipped is the one against the Trump Organization, and it's actually beginning on October 2nd. I mean, that's 2 weeks from now? Donald Trump could be ordered to return all the money he made fraudulently. This case, first of all, it's on a summary trial because it's numbers. So they don't need to have a trial to prove that Donald Trump is guilty of the things he's being accused of. Or I should say the Trump Organization being guilty of the things they're being accused of, which is doing things like, okay, I have this 3,000 square foot. I'm bad at square feet. I don't know. Is that really small? I don't know. Let's say I have this 10,000 square foot condo, and I want to get a bank loan and use it as collateral. So instead of telling the truth and saying it's 10,000 square feet, I'm going to say it's 30,000 square feet. So that instead of it being worth, say, $3 million, I'm going to say it's worth $10 million, ramping everything up by 3 times when you want a bank loan. But when you need to pay taxes, then all of a sudden, it's not worth even $3 million anymore. It's only worth $1.5 million or $1 million. Ramp it down 3 times when you need to pay taxes on it. Ramp it up 3 times when you want to get a bank loan against it. Or just report how much you're worth so you can be in the Forbes top 10 billionaire, whatever BS these fake rich people do. The case right now, it's basically he's being sued for $250 million. But in reality, there's a law in New York talks about restitution and disgorgement, which I think is a great term. He's gorging himself. So we're going to disgorge him of all the money he made fraudulently. It's called equitable relief, as well as disgorgement. We're not just going to take the $250 million. We're going to take every red cent that you made by lying, that you made because of fraud. Estimates go up and probably past $3 billion that the Trump Organization could be ordered to pay. The Trump Organization also would be ordered that they could never do business in the state of New York again. The victims in this case are the citizens of New York, because the people who don't ramp up the value of their house when they're asking for a bank loan and ramp down the value of their house by 3 times when they're paying taxes. The people who don't do that fraud have been paying the taxes they need to pay. So Trump also tried to make the argument
I borrowed this money fraudulently from the banks. But I paid it all back, so the banks are fine. They're doing fine.
But the thing is, let's just say a bank has $100 billion. And Donald Trump comes in and says,
I have this place. It's 30,000 billion square feet. It's worth $1 trillion. Please give me a loan for $10 billion.
And then you have 30 other people wanting a loan for a certain amount, and they go to the bank, and the bank says, well, we're not giving out loans anymore because we've used up our whole $100 billion. But Trump took $10 billion of that fraudulently, even though he paid it all back. That's kind of like saying,
I went in, I robbed that bank. I robbed that bank like a dog. The bank went down like a dog. I went in with a gun, I robbed the bank, but I paid all the money back, so you can't send me to jail. The bank got all its money back. The bank is doing fine.
It's kind of the same type of thing. So the Trump organization, it seriously is really looking like in a few weeks from now is going to be kaput. And the Trump family will not be able to pull in money, at least from that. I don't know. I don't know what all that means. The things I just told you are what I do know. I don't know if the Trump organization could bring down the Trump family. I'm kind of thinking there's going to be some other, I don't know. I don't know that part is part of what I'm saying. Okay, next thing on my list here on our very quick show, our very quick installment where we're not doing all the research. We're just going through the current news. The impeachment of Joe Biden. Now, he was just, and by the way, they're trying to say that he is too old and he doesn't know where he is and he can't put together a sentence. He's walking from the helicopter or the airplane, tons of noise, just excruciating, a jet airplane just going, sorry about that noise, but in the background. And, I think if it were me, the reporters ask me a question, I think I would say, what? I can't hear you. But Joe Biden heard him. And the question was, what do you think about this impeachment inquiry? And he kind of started to laugh a little bit. And he said, best of luck. Because he knows it's a bunch of BS. Matt Gaetz admitted it's all about next year. James Comer and those guys are saying, well, no, we don't have any evidence. But we're going to do the impeachment inquiry anyway. And Kevin McCarthy in 2019 said, an impeachment inquiry means nothing unless you have a full vote on the House floor. So then back then, Nancy Pelosi, who called for an impeachment inquiry on Donald Trump because he actually did commit crimes and misdemeanors, high crimes, dealing with foreign policy, I mean, pretty insane when you really analyze it. We've been, all this stuff has been normalized way too much. But when you really analyze it, what he was doing, he was blackmailing Zelensky in Ukraine, saying, I'm not going to give you the military aid unless you say you're going to do an investigation against Biden. And I mean, it's really, really serious. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi back in 2019 then did put a full vote on the House floor, and it passed. And the Trump administration then made it a law. You can't just call for an impeachment inquiry. You cannot bring subpoenas to anybody into your impeachment inquiry unless it has been successfully voted on the House floor. So Nancy Pelosi did that. The Trump administration said it's not valid unless you put it on a vote on the House floor. Kevin McCarthy a couple of weeks ago said, oh, yeah, I'm going to bring it to a vote on the House floor, and then realized it wouldn't win, it would fail. And he would be greatly hurting a lot of the Republican candidates in their reelection because some of these people are going to be trying to win reelection in their district where Biden won. And now they have to vote on an impeachment inquiry against Biden? If they vote in favor of it, well, they have a big chance of losing because the people in their district voted for Biden. And then if they vote against it, they're going to lose their base. So McCarthy went completely 180 degrees in the other direction, did not have a vote on the House floor, but still called for an impeachment inquiry. So it's all BS. It's absolute crap. Absolute crap. Another thing that just happened today, this bulletin just in. Rudy Giuliani, the ghoul who is up against a lot of trials against him right now, he hired one of his proteges, somebody who thought of Rudy Giuliani as his mentor, as his teacher. He hired this guy to be his lawyer in the defamation case against Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss, which he lost. Now, this lawyer, who used to basically be under Giuliani's tutelage, so he very much admired Giuliani, he's now suing Rudy Giuliani because Rudy Giuliani has not paid his legal bills. He had not paid this guy for his legal services. So now Rudy Giuliani is being sued by him for $1.3 million. $1.3 million. Rudy Giuliani is apparently more than $3 million that he owes to lawyers that he hired. And he's a lawyer himself, and he's not paying his lawyers. And he still keeps going to this day on like Newsmax, and I think he's got his own podcast of some sort. He keeps repeating the exact things that he was sued for defamation by Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss. He keeps repeating them even now. He seems completely addled, and he just keeps stacking up more evidence against himself every time he opens his mouth, and he's seeming pretty addled and crazy. What a fall from grace. Now, I would argue he never had grace. He's always been completely full of crap, even when people called him America's mayor. That's a whole nother thing, and that would be a historic deep dive that maybe we'll do here. But yeah. We're going to take a short break, just slightly early here, because we're doing a very quick installment before I leave town for Washington, D.C. I want to talk about something called Operation Saving Democracy that was just launched today, September 19th, 2023, in the Space and Time Continuum. I'm going to talk about that a little bit and talk about some other things. You've heard the name Tuberville and Tuberville. I don't know which way it's supposed to be pronounced. But after we come back from a short break, we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to mention something that I don't know that people have thought of yet. And it's really kind of jarring. So we'll come back and talk about that when we come back on a Satellite View. For the second half of this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host. Reminding you, if you like the music here, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music link, and you can find this and much more music that I have worked on. It's all original music that I did when I was working in music quite a lot. Still, I'm not really working. I'm not getting paid for it, but there was a point in time where I was trying to make it into a career. I was trying to be a rock star, okay? I'll admit. I think the only reason it didn't work was because, I have male pattern baldness. Otherwise, I think I would have been one of the hugest rock stars in the history of the world and universe. So sometimes with our business, we've got this old-fashioned post office that's very near our business that every once in a great while, I need to stop in there and send something. And they don't have the new card readers, where you only use a credit card. I still have to actually sign something with a pen at this United States Post Office that's right by our business. It's very small and very old-fashioned. To prevent people from stealing the pen, they tape a plastic spoon to the pen. I guess because, for one thing, even if you're not trying to steal the pen, you won't just put the pen in your pocket, but who puts pens in their pockets anymore? You don't need a pen. Who writes checks? Nobody. I haven't even seen a coin for I don't know how long. Who uses money? It's just, you tap your card, beep. Okay, you're approved. Thank you. Do you want your receipt? No, I don't want my receipt. Okay, have a good day. But at this post office, there's a pen with a spoon taped to it. And it's kind of like you can't steal the pen then. I guess people wanted to steal pens. And I was thinking, I don't need a pen. I just explained, who needs a pen? But what if I stopped in my car and got some soup? I could use a spoon. So actually taping the spoon to the pen was incentivizing me to steal the pen because, I don't care about the pen. I kind of would like the spoon. Anyway, these are things that ramble through my head then when I'm driving from the post office. Okay, we were going to talk about Tuberville. Retired U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. He said, not only is it blocking promotions and assignments and policy changes and preparation for potential war against China and military assistance to Ukraine in its ongoing war, but it's brought policies into this. He continued, now what can be done? What normally would be done is every federal program that's going to Alabama would be choked off. And you'd make a private issue of this. You'd go to the leadership in the Senate. You'd tell Mitch McConnell, if you don't crack down on this guy, we're going to take away your programs in Kentucky. This is hardball. Now, a very interesting theory actually put forth by Matt McNeil. He tweeted about this. Matt McNeil, he's got the Matt McNeil Show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I sit in for Matt McNeil whenever he's taken a break from his show. I end up doing, maybe 4 or 5 weeks a year sitting in on the Matt McNeil Show. And he tweeted about this. First of all, what I was just reading from was a HuffPost.com piece that Matt McNeil references in this tweet. But then Matt McNeil writes this. It seems pretty clear to me that Tuberville is intentionally leaving top military positions open so that if a Republican wins in 2024, they can install coup-friendly military leaders. I read that, and that's the only place I've seen it. Just Matt McNeil saying that. I don't know if he got it from somewhere else. I got it from this. That coupled up with people like Mark Meadows not turning on Trump because he thinks maybe if he just, even if he's found guilty, he can sit in jail for a few months and then Trump will win and pardon him. These people think they're going to win. They really think they're going to win the 2024 election. And it is a little scary because talk about rigged elections, talk about Russian collusion. These are the people who would know, right? Tuberville would be just the guy that they would use for something like this. Okay, listen, block all military promotions. I know it's going to be a huge mess, and yes, it's going to threaten our national security, but, we don't care about that anymore. We just need to stay in power. We need an authoritarianism in this country. The Republican Party has become anti-American democracy. They've also lost all their brain power, and they've lost all their good people. Their good people are no longer in that. Now, a lot of good Republicans have started something called Operation Saving Democracy. It's a bipartisan thing. It's sort of a nonpartisan thing. And it was just launched today with a really good video. Operation Saving Democracy. Look it up, support it. People from both sides, conservatives, progressives. It's made up of mostly retired military people, very top-level people, people who have worked in the White House on a military level of some sort. And they are trying to educate Americans as to how much of a threat our democracy would be under if Trump and Trumpism, even if it's without Trump, if Trumpism gets any power again. Tuberville is part of Trumpism. And it seems like he very, very well could be, this scheme. Okay, I'll block all the military guys so that we get Trump or someone else in there, and then we can, get the kind of people like that would, support a coup. We could have martial law, and then we could keep Trump or whoever it is in the White House for forever. We can no longer have elections. Again, this theory, I find it really interesting. Now, Speaker of the House, we may have a government shutdown at the beginning of October. A lot of people are saying it's inevitable. It's not. They don't have the votes. They don't have enough Republicans who would vote for a government shutdown, because any of the halfway sane Republicans know that a government shutdown would be completely blamed on the Republicans, and it would, again, hurt them in the election. They don't even need that to lose the election. All they need is, their stance on abortion rights. But I think Kevin McCarthy knows that the votes are not there for a government shutdown. And that's why he's getting a little bit more of a backbone, and he's acting kind of pissed off now at the crazy MAGAs. Because he's saying, I gave them everything that they asked for, and they still want more. So, F them. If a vote comes to the floor to vacate the speakership, if McCarthy loses the speakership, there has to be an election in the House for a new speaker. I could run for that. You don't have to be in Congress to become the Speaker of the House. You could be anybody. I could run for it. You could run for it. Hakeem Jeffries could run for it. What do you think of that? Republicans have no idea what they're doing. They're shooting themselves in both feet constantly. They're completely torn amongst themselves within their own party. They're fighting with each other. They're not even fighting against Democrats anymore. They never talk about Democrats except Hunter Biden. They're not talking about the economy, or they're not talking about any issues. They're not talking about going against Joe Biden in the election. They're fighting with each other. Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz are fighting with each other. That's the main focus of the news on the Republican Party right now. In the meantime, I don't know. They get rid of McCarthy and they grab, they only need a couple to a few Republicans to say, hey, you want to bring sanity back to the Congress? Vote Hakeem Jeffries. and we've got a Republican majority in the House with a Democrat as the Speaker of the House. And Hakeem Jeffries is going to be the Speaker of the House within the next 2 years. even if we have to wait until the elections of 2024 for the Republicans to lose their majority, which is going to happen, he'll become Speaker of the House in January of 2025. But what if he could become Speaker of the House like in 2 weeks? I'm not predicting that's going to happen, but it's possible. The Republicans need to be a little bit more careful of what they're asking for. They asked to overthrow Roe v. Wade. They caught the car. When the dog catches the car, that's not supposed to happen. So, yeah. Anyway, well, I just wanted to talk about all of those things. I think they're very interesting. And I know I didn't do the historic deep dive. We'll get back at that next week. I'm just doing a very quick and early installment here because I had to skip over all this stuff before in the last episode. So I wanted to talk to you about it. And let's take care of each other. And thank you so much for listening to this new installment of A Satellite View. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.